really mean. It's simply that you haven't been exposed to enough of, or haven't paid enough attention to the world around you. And I don't mean that in a criticizing way. To know what to retain when you're looking at a scene with so much visual information is a skill to be practiced in itself. But it's never too late to start now. Remember when I introduced visual libraries? They are especially important when it comes to any sort of design conception. It would be difficult to imagine a unicorn if you've never even seen a horse, right? But if you know what a horse looks like, and what a horn looks like, and you know that a unicorn is the combination of both, suddenly the task becomes a lot easier. The same applies when it comes to designing a character. To envision a character, it's easier if you've exposed yourself to many of the parts that consist of a character, and to as many character designs as possible. So before we actually make a character, I will go through and observe a few characters with you. I will show you how to think and analyze when looking at other character designs that you want to draw inspiration from. So here I have 3 character designs, and these two, number 2 and 3, are simply derivatives of the first one. So I grabbed the first one and I painted over it, and I tried to push some more story and theme into the character for these 2 designs, and I tried to change them up a little bit because I want to show you that even when the pose and the color palette, when so many aspects remain the same, the character's overall look still looks the same, you can completely change the atmosphere of a character. The reason being, the reason that I chose this first artwork to work off of is because it was a design that I came up with based off an antique. And so really the only thing that I thought of at the time was aesthetics. I didn't really think about how the clothing would work in reality. I didn't think about the character's story. None of that. Which is why number 1 does look a little plain. Making a blank expression, and the only thing that this kind of outfit really suggests is that perhaps she's in PJs, or she doesn't mind being cold, or she's not in a cold climate. Perhaps it's quite hot where she is, living on a beach. There's not too much going on besides a kind of air of elegance. So for number 2, I tried to push that elegant atmosphere a little more, and I added in these wings with these sleek lines and shapes, along with extending the dress downwards, and her hair also adding to the sleekness of the look, to create a almost angelic theme to the character, along with an atmosphere of mystery, because I hid her eyes. Makes you a little curious. Can this character not see, or is she simply hiding her eyes? What is behind her bandage? For number 3, I gave her more of a rugged look. I decided to imagine what if she lived in a colder climate. Although not completely realistic because of the dress, but I wanted to keep the overall essence of the character the same. So I kept this transparent part of the dress, but I added a warm coat. I changed it from this very thin outerwear to this thicker looking coat with fur, and I made her hair and tail look much more rugged. I also changed her expression to be a little more serious looking, whereas the first one was more uncertain and curious. This character will look more sure of herself. I think that out of these 3 designs, these 2 will have more storytelling and intention. So I've thought more about why I'm putting things down instead of just, oh, this could be pretty, that could be pretty, this could be pretty too. I think that it's really important to notice these factors when you're looking at character designs. What does each part of the character tell you about the character itself? Because every small detail and change can alter the viewer's impression, the viewer's first impression. And we know how important first impressions are. They're not everything, but they convey a lot when you're meeting someone for the first time. You can see that the mood, the atmosphere of this character with her long flowing hair is very different to this one with these more rugged, uneven shapes. While it's okay, completely okay, to come up with a design like number 1 that's just really just to be admired, to be pretty, you just thought it looked nice. If you think about why and how people really get invested into characters, it's more often than not due to the story and feeling a sense of relatability or connection from understanding the character better. So if you can convey a story through the design alone, then that helps to build that bridge. It's not linear, though, so just by tossing more pieces of story doesn't get you a better character. For example, I don't know, I want people to know that number 2 reads a lot of books. So I'm gonna give her a book in her hand. I'm gonna give her a bag full of books. So while this conveys more story to the viewer, it's saying, oh yeah, she loves books. I mean, don't mind that she has a blindfold, but she has heaps of books, book in her hand. It doesn't make it a better character or a better character design. It's about having a vision and conveying that to the viewer with intention behind every decision that you make. So if you're going to create a character design that you just want to look pretty or is rather plain or simple, boring, then do it because it was your intention and not because you didn't put any thought into it. This brings me to purpose. Character creation starts with purpose. The purpose will determine how detailed it is and where it falls on the scale between reality and fantasy. These are important to think about early on because it will change how you approach your design. Character designs will borrow from reality, but on different levels. For characters that live in a reality close to ours, say an actual real place on Earth, it's important to think practically about the character's personality and environment and the way that they shape how the character dresses. What kind of materials are available for them, and does their clothing suit their self-expression and lifestyle? These questions still matter when it comes to fantasy, but since we gain a lot of creative freedom, producing a visually appealing and effective design takes priority instead. My purpose for the character that I'll create is to come up with an interesting design for the class. And so the things that I'm taking into consideration is design that's good for showing the aspects that I'm covering in the class. For example, silhouette, anatomy, posing, color, shape, value, etc. And I want it to be fun to draw. So I think that I'll be coming up with a character leaning towards fantasy. And I'm not going to have it too detailed because I don't want the illustration part of the lesson to focus on getting all the details of the character right. I want it to be focused on everything else. So I've actually already drawn the character that I'm using for the class demonstration, but I'm going to go over all the decisions that I've made with you. And here are my references. So I had one artwork as reference for the horns and the hairstyle, which you can't really see, but I do imagine the longer strands that would be in front instead are being braided back, and I hint at their existence around the sides. The main outfit inspiration was this girl from Guilty Crown. I've always admired the effectiveness of this character design, and I wanted to try something flowy and similar. Also because I felt that this kind of body hugging or bodysuit like clothing would be really good for the purpose of teaching, since I'll be able to clearly show you how her anatomy looks and the posing and the silhouette. When it comes to color, shape, and value, I took the colors. It wasn't from this artwork specifically, but it was the idea that is being depicted in this artwork. I was thinking of plum tree flowers with a bird resting on the branches. That was the kind of overarching idea for this character. That mixed with the monarch butterfly to make it a little more interesting. I wanted to have long flowy fabric so that I could show ways to compose the fabric as well to make it look nice. When it came to building up the character, I first drew out the body, and then I started from the largest elements, which would be, so the shape of this bodysuit. I started with these. And then once I had the biggest elements down, so including flowy eye details, I started adding more and more detail around the character. So for example, these wings on her chest and the butterfly pattern and the socks or leggings that she's wearing. I start from the biggest elements first because they have the largest impact on the design overall. So it's important to get those parts right and then go in and place the detail after that. For the character's colors, I decided to cover her arms and legs with this dark gray-black color because they're long and thin, and I imagined them to be the branches of the plum tree, if her body and hair were the flowers. I didn't actually try too many different color palettes for this character. I kind of already had it. This is probably the earlier iteration that I had, what I came up with first, and I was almost going to submit this in, but ended up feeling that it was too reminding me of a jester, like a court jester. And I didn't want that effect because I didn't want her character to be humorous. I wanted it to look elegant instead. So I softened up the effect of her costume in this top area by changing the blue out and also by changing this black part out. Alright, I hope that helped you guys understand a little better about the whole character creation process and the things that you can think about while designing your own character. I would say that the other factors that contribute to the appeal of this character design that I've put down is my pre-existing drawing ability, because if your foundations are good and you're able to draw well, then even if you're drawing a character design that is weak, you can make it look nice to a certain degree. So that will be part of the contributing factor to the design's appeal. I would say that as an illustrator, my appeal in the drawing side of a character is definitely stronger than the design side, simply because I draw a lot more than I design, but they go hand in hand in the end. We will be practicing generating ideas, creating mood boards, and finding references and envisioning concepts. So the task is to write down a list of themes and character traits that you enjoy, or you can borrow from this list that I've provided below of just some generic prompts that you can use yourself for ideas. I'd like you to select or randomly pick 2 to 3 and create a mood board for a character based on those that you've chosen. The next part, level 2, is practicing drawing and breaking down the prompts themselves. What kind of identifying features do they have? I've given an example here of a crow. So if your character has a crow theme, you need to understand how to break down a crow in the first place. What do people see? What things, what attributes do people see and think crow? What makes up this bird? That would be a slender shape, a slender and sleek, glossy look, shiny black colors, feathers, the shape of the head, the beak. These are all identifying features. And the wings. There's probably more, like the claws, the shape of the tail as well. All the different shapes that come out when the bird is flying. All of these things can be broken down and used because these are what viewers identify as a crow. And if you want people to identify your character as having something to do with a crow, then you need to apply these features to the character. The third part, level 3, is visual brainstorm. Since I'm making you pick 2 to 3 prompts, I want you to think about how you can combine the different elements together. So, say you have a crow and you have a demon, and then you have all the parts that make up a demon as well. How can you mix the parts together to look like a crow demon? And then I want you to think about how would these themes look like as an accessory or weapon, or finally a character. If a character is a bit difficult for you to work with at this stage, then use an accessory or a weapon first, and then that really allows you to work strictly on your designing skills as opposed to worrying about making the character look good, since the character is a much more complicated shape to draw. But eventually, I would like you to work your way up to trying to come up with some characters as well. And for this exercise, quantity is more important than quality. We don't care about coming up with the prettiest or most finished looking design. We just want to practice designing a lot. And that just means doing this over and over. Okay, I hope that explained the task for this lesson, and I will see you guys in the next one. Bye!